You felt it, the chilling shift when their eyes go cold, their voice turns venomous, and the person you thought you knew vanishes behind a mask of pure malice. It's not just anger. It's not just ego. It feels inhuman, like something else has taken hold. And you're not imagining it. What you witnessed wasn't just narcissism, it was possession. Not by demons in the religious sense, but by 7 ancient, psychological spirits that have haunted broken souls for centuries. These are not metaphors. They are forces, relentless, predatory, and utterly devoid of empathy. And today, we name them. Because once you see the spirits behind the smile, you'll never mistake their evil for mere personality again. Picture this. One moment they are charming, the next they are destroying you with surgical precision, twisting your words, erasing your truth, making you doubt your sanity. That whiplash isn't random. It's orchestrated. By something inside them that doesn't just want control, it craves your annihilation. Not your body. Your spirit. Your sense of self. And it's this that makes narcissistic evil so hard to comprehend. It's not human rage. It's systemic erasure, powered by invisible forces that feed on your light to mask their void. Why does this matter? Because calling it toxic behavior softens the horror. This isn't toxicity. This is spiritual vampireism disguised as charisma. The narcissist isn't just selfish, they're inhabited by patterns so old, so ruthless, that they operate like programs running beneath consciousness. And survivors don't just feel hurt, they feel haunted. Because they were. Not by a person, but by a constellation of evil spirits wearing a human face. You weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. That gut feeling that something is wrong here, that wasn't fear. That was your soul recognizing possession. The narcissist isn't evil because they choose to be. They are evil because they surrendered long ago, to fear, to shame, to abandonment, and in that surrender, they opened the door. And 7 spirits walked in, each claiming a part of their humanity, until nothing was left but hunger wrapped in skin. This isn't about religion. It's about archetypes, psychological entities that live in the collective shadow of humanity. The narcissist becomes their vessel. Not because they are possessed by devils, but because they never integrated their own darkness. So it took over. And now, it speaks through them. Lies through them. Destroys through them. And until you name the spirits, you'll keep thinking it's personal. It's not. It's predatory. You thought love could heal them. But you can't reason with a ghost. You can't negotiate with a void. The narcissist's cruelty isn't calculated in real time. It's automatic, instinctive, like a reflex honed by decades of internal corruption. And the 7 spirits that drive them? They don't care about you. They care about one thing, keeping the narcissist's fragile illusion alive, even if it costs you your mind, your body, your soul. This video isn't here to frighten you. It's here to free you. To reframe every gaslight, every smear, every silent treatment not as personal attacks, but as symptoms of a deeper possession. Because once you stop seeing the narcissist as the source, and start seeing them as the host, you stop taking their evil personally. And that shift? That's your liberation. The most dangerous lie they sell themselves, and you, is that they are in control. They're not. They are puppets. And the strings are pulled by 7 ancient hungers that have no conscience, no remorse, no capacity for change. They only know how to consume. And you? You were just the latest meal. You don't need to understand their pain to survive their evil. But you do need to understand the forces that animate them. Because evil this organized, this relentless, doesn't come from one wound. It comes from a soul that collapsed inward, and invited darkness to fill the space where the self should have been. So let's pull back the veil. Let's name the 7 spirits that possess narcissism, not to demonize a person, but to expose the machinery of their destruction. Because once you see the spirits, you'll never again mistake their cruelty for love, their hunger for desire, or their emptiness for depth. And in that clarity, you'll find the strength to walk away, and never look back. The first spirit is the Hollow King, the grandiose phantom that demands worship but offers nothing in return. It doesn't want love, it wants tribute. It builds thrones out of your admiration, crowns out of your surrender, and when you stop feeding it, it doesn't mourn you, it declares you unworthy to kneel. The Hollow King isn't proud, it's terrified. Terrified of the void beneath the crown. And it will burn down your life before it lets you see the emptiness it guards. The second spirit is the Mirror Eater, a parasite that consumes your identity to fill its own lack. It doesn't see you. It sees what you reflect back: desire, fear, adoration. And when you try to be yourself, when you express a need, a boundary, a truth, it doesn't just reject you. It devours your reflection and replaces it with a version that serves its hunger. You become a puppet in your own skin, performing devotion while your soul suffocates in silence. The third spirit is the Silent Executioner, the cold, calculating force that punishes without raising its voice. It doesn't yell. It withdraws. It freezes you out with surgical precision, weaponizing absence until you're begging for scraps of attention. Its power lies in your desperation to restore what was never real. And in that desperation, you give away your dignity, piece by piece, until nothing remains but a ghost of who you were. The fourth spirit is the Truth Twister, a master of distortion that rewrites reality so thoroughly, you begin to doubt your own memory, your senses, your sanity. It doesn't lie outright. It bends. It reframes. It makes your pain look like your fault, your boundaries look like betrayal, your truth look like delusion. And the more you resist, the more it tightens the screws, until you're apologizing for existing. The fifth spirit is the Eternal Victim, a deceptive specter that flips the script so fast, you're the abuser for setting a boundary. It cries not from remorse, but from rage that you dared to disrupt its narrative. It weaponizes tears, trauma, and past pain to evade accountability. And it's so convincing, even bystanders turn on you, because the eternal victim doesn't just play the role. It becomes the role, until truth itself bends to its will. The sixth spirit is the Shadow Collector, a hoarder of your secrets, your vulnerabilities, your intimate confessions. It doesn't store them for safekeeping. It stockpiles them as ammunition. And when you try to leave, it unleashes them, not to hurt you, but to destroy your credibility. Your pain becomes its weapon. Your trust becomes its trap. And your love? That's just data for the smear campaign. The seventh spirit is the Soul Leech, the most insidious of all. It doesn't just take your time, your energy, your body. It drains your life force, your hope, your will to fight. It leaves you exhausted, hollow, questioning your worth, while it grows stronger on your depletion. It doesn't need to destroy you outwardly. It just needs you weak enough to keep feeding it. And it will do it with a smile, a whisper, a promise of never again. Together, these seven spirits form a perfect storm of psychological possession. They don't operate separately, they feed each other. The Hollow King demands worship, the Mirror Eater steals your identity to provide it, the Silent Executioner punishes dissent, the Truth Twister erases evidence, the Eternal Victim plays innocent, the Shadow Collector arms itself with your past, and the Soul Leech ensures you're too drained to escape. This isn't dysfunction. This is design. The Narcissist isn't the enemy. They are the battlefield. These spirits took root in childhood, when love was conditional, safety was scarce, and the self was punished. So they shattered, and the void invited darkness in. Now, they don't know how to exist without the spirits. Because without them, they'd have to face the child inside who was never loved for who they were. And that pain is too great to bear. So remember, when you see the cruelty, the manipulation, the coldness, it's not them. It's the spirit speaking. And you were never meant to heal the host. You were meant to escape the haunting. Because no amount of love can exorcise 7 evil spirits that have been feeding for decades. The turning point comes when you stop trying to reach the human beneath and start protecting yourself from the possession above. You realize their apologies are just the Hollow King testing your loyalty. Their vulnerability is the Eternal Victim resetting the trap. Their silence isn't remorse, it's the Silent Executioner reloading. And in that moment, your power shifts, not from hope to hate, but from confusion to clarity. Watch how they react when you stop feeding the spirits. When you refuse to mirror the Hollow King, when you reclaim your identity from the Mirror Eater, when you no longer flinch at the Silent Executioner's freeze, they panic. Not because they've lost you, but because their internal ecosystem is collapsing. Without your energy, the spirits starve. And a starving spirit is a desperate, dangerous thing. They'll escalate, smearing you with secrets collected by the shadow collector, twisting your boundaries into abuse via the truth twister, playing the victim through the eternal victim's tears. But it's all noise. Because you've seen the machinery. You know the scripts. And you refuse to be the audience anymore. This is the psychological plot twist. The evil isn't personal. It's procedural. They don't hate you. They need you to feed the spirits, to stabilize the illusion, to prove they still matter. And the moment you withdraw, you don't just leave a relationship. You withdraw oxygen from a fire that's been burning your life to ash. They'll hoover with sudden change, a new therapist, a spiritual awakening, a promise to do the work. But don't mistake this for healing. It's the soul leech desperate for one more meal. Real healing doesn't happen in a weekend. It doesn't skip accountability. And it never, ever demands you return as proof of its success. Don't confuse their collapse for remorse. Their fear isn't about hurting you, it's about losing access to your energy. You're not a person to them in that moment. You're a lifeline. And when you disappear, the spirits turn on the host, because even they know, without supply, the performance ends. This is where real power shifts, not with a fight, but with finality. The day you stop hoping the human will wake up. The day you accept the spirits are in control. The day you realize your job isn't to save them, but to save yourself. And in that surrender to truth, you become untouchable. They'll rage. They'll lie. They'll rewrite history. But projection is their last defense. Because deep down, they know they weren't discarded. They were seen. And being seen, as a vessel of evil spirits, not a flawed human, is the one thing their illusion cannot survive. You are no longer their mirror. You are your own sanctuary. And your refusal to reflect their chaos back at them is the final exorcism. Because evil spirits cannot survive in the light of clear-eyed truth. They need denial, confusion, hope. And you've given them none. This turning point isn't just your liberation. It's their reckoning. For the first time, they must face the truth. They are not the hollow king. They are the hollowed-out shell the king inhabits. And without believers, the king has no kingdom. Without victims, the spirits have no feast. And without you, the haunting ends. Now, observe the collapse. Without your energy, their charisma dulls. Their stories lose luster. New targets sense the hunger beneath the polish, the subtle panic when admiration isn't instant. Because authenticity can't be faked forever. And you were the last great illusion that held their facade together. Your departure didn't just remove a person, it removed the final pillar of their performance. They'll cycle faster, jumping from person to person, recycling your lines, using your vulnerabilities as blueprints. But it's never the same. Because you weren't just another source. You were the one who saw the spirits, and still had the courage to walk away. And that courage haunts them more than any curse ever could. Their social mask begins to slip. Friends notice the pattern. The sudden devaluation, the smear campaigns, the way they discard people the moment they stop feeding the spirits. Lovers sense the emptiness behind the passion, the mechanical nature of their touch, the absence of true presence. The illusion is thinning, and people are finally seeing the possession beneath the performance. Internally, they're in free fall. No amount of new supply silences the voice that now whispers, "You're empty." The void you once masked with your warmth is now roaring. Because the void isn't about attention, it's about self. And they still have no answer to the question that haunts them every night: who am I without the spirit speaking for me? They'll rewrite history, claiming you were toxic, manipulative, or emotionally unstable. Not because it's true, but because your truth exposes their fraud. If they can destroy your credibility, they can restore the illusion that the spirits are real and they are the king. It's not about justice. It's about survival. But truth is louder than their lies. Every survivor who walks away chips away at their facade. Every boundary you set becomes a crack in their armor. And slowly, the world stops feeding them and starts seeing them. Not as the charismatic enigma they pretend to be, but as the haunted vessel they've always been. Their collapse isn't dramatic. It's quiet. A slow fade into irrelevance as people choose authenticity over performance. As lovers choose presence over control. As friends choose consistency over chaos. The market for their illusion dries up, because the truth is finally trending. They'll never understand why you left. Because in their narrative, they gave you everything: passion, attention, drama. But you didn't want their spectacle. You wanted safety. You wanted someone who could hold you without needing to own you. Someone whose love didn't vanish the moment you asked for consistency. Their tragedy is not yours to carry. Let them spiral in the silence they created. Let them face the mirror without your reflection. Because your freedom begins the moment you stop being the answer to their existential crisis. You were never responsible for filling their void. You were only ever responsible for protecting your light. And as they search desperately for their next source, recycling your lines, mimicking your tenderness, using your vulnerability as a blueprint, you're doing something radical, rebuilding yourself. Not for an audience. Not for validation. But because you finally believe you are worth more than being a vessel for evil spirits. Here is the final truth. The 7 spirits cannot be reasoned with, healed, or tamed. They can only be starved. And you do that by withdrawing your energy, your attention, your belief in their performance. Your worth was never up for debate. Your peace was never negotiable. And your soul was never theirs to consume. Real strength isn't in fighting the spirits, it's in refusing to feed them. It's in knowing that your healing doesn't require their apology. That your future doesn't need their presence. That your light doesn't dim because they couldn't see it. You don't exorcise evil by confronting it. You exorcise it by walking away and never looking back. Healing begins when you stop seeing their behavior as a reflection of your worth. When you realize that someone who treats your soul as a battleground will never treat your heart as a home. You weren't broken because they used you. You were brilliant because you survived, and wiser because you walked away. You are not damaged goods. You are a reclaimed sanctuary. Every boundary you set is a brick in the temple of your renewed self. Every no is an act of devotion to your own soul. Let them call you cold. What they really mean is, you're no longer feeding the spirits. And that's not a flaw, it's your liberation. Let their hunger remain their prison. You are free to love someone who doesn't need to consume you to feel whole. Someone whose presence doesn't leave you emptier, but fuller, calmer, more yourself. Someone who doesn't see your empathy as a weakness to exploit, but as a strength to honor. Every time you choose yourself over their craving, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every boundary is a resurrection. Every silence is a revolution. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are sovereign. And sovereignty terrifies the spirits, because it exposes the lie they've sold the world, that they are powerful. One day, you'll sit in a quiet room, and the thought of them won't stir a ripple in your soul. Not because you've forgotten, but because you've forgiven yourself for ever believing you needed them to be worthy. And in that stillness, you'll finally understand, you were never the victim. You were the exorcist. You were never the problem. You were the mirror that showed them their emptiness, and they broke the glass rather than face the truth. But you survived the shattering. And from those shards, you didn't just rebuild, you evolved. You transformed pain into clarity, betrayal into boundaries, confusion into conviction. Your future belongs to someone who doesn't just want your warmth, but protects your flame. Who doesn't just admire your resilience, but defends your peace. Who knows that love isn't taken through manipulation. It's given, and only when both souls are fully present, fully free, and fully respected. The narcissist is terrified of you, not because you destroyed them, but because you refused to be destroyed. And in that refusal, you became the one truth the 7 spirits can never erase: you were always enough. You always will be. And no evil, no spirit, no lie, no hunger gets to decide that for you. Your peace is your power. Your silence is your strength. And your freedom? That's your final, unassailable truth. Walk in it. Live in it. Breathe in it. Because you are not here to survive their haunting. You are here to thrive in your own light.